of Minnesotans of African Heritage. We are officially calling the meeting to order. It is 6:03. And if I can have a roll call by CMAH staff, and we know we're still light here from the council's on the council's end, but if I can go ahead and have roll call, that'd be great.
Of course. Okay, first and foremost, Chair Hughes.
Present.
Thank you. Alrighty, Vice Chair Doe. Okay, we'll circle back. Treasurer Mullins.
Present.
Thank you. Secretary Adams-Lee. Okay, we'll circle back. Councilmember Daniels. Okay. Councilmember Crawford. Alrighty. Councilmember Nadi.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Winston. Okay. Councilmember Dukes. All right. Councilmember Dahir. Okay. Councilmember Senator Fate. Okay. Representative Frazier. Okay. And Representative Hudson. All righty, we'll circle back. Back to you, Chair Hughes.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're gonna go straight into our financial report because the two items that we would need to approve, we don't have quite a quorum. So Tawana, I'm going to turn it over to you for the financial report.
Okay, just 1 second. Oops, I'm so sorry. Give me a second.
That's okay.
Sorry, y'all. I did not tell my baby I was in a meeting.
That's okay.
Let's see. Okay. You know what? I always run into this when I'm on my Mac. Can someone share oops, sorry, I did not see my video wasn't on. Can someone share the financials for me? I always run into it doesn't show up for me on the
when you're on your Mac.
book. I don't know why. This one.
Alrighty. Ash speaking, and I'll do that for you. Give me 1 second here.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. There we go. All right, can everybody see?
Yep.
Yes, thank
Excellent. You're most welcome.
Okay, it's asking me to take control.
Go for it.
That's not okay.
All yours.
Got it. I don't know why it needed me to. It just popped up and asked me, but okay. Thank you. So we are currently sitting at about 131,000 in unobligated funds to expend by the end of the fiscal year, which we all know is coming really fast, June 30th. I do know there is a plan to spend down some of those dollars. I don't know, someone from CMAH, if we have I know we were working on getting an exact dollar amount of what we thought we were getting down to. Do we have that yet?
I do have a tentative budget that I can show you when you're done with your report.
Okay, perfect. And I don't have anything from the report. Again, I know we still have some outstanding per diems. I'm still waiting on CMAH to get those over to me so I can get out to the people who are missing those. Chair Hughes, I think you said that you had a date that you wanted to set.
Yeah, we really wanted it, honestly, by this meeting, but I know that there was a delay in getting, kind of the total of not only just the people, but how much, how many months that they were behind. And so I would say if at least between now and when we meet again, which is next month, if we can get that done, that would be awesome. Because we know that a lot of these expenditures are going to come down. The other piece that we know is with us having, and I don't want to jump ahead, but just to kind of put it out there, Day on the Hill was yesterday. So we know that there's going to be some expenses that were occurred from there. So, so I think next month, if we can, it'll look a little bit different. If we can have that, give them until then hopefully that'll kind of get the momentum with everyone and we can kind of go from there.
Perfect. Yes. I'm ready just as soon as SEMA is ready to get that over to me.
Perfect.
I can reach out to everyone.
Okay. Any
Does anyone have any
questions?
questions? Oh, sorry for me.
No, you're good. You're good.
So I am ready to show a tentative budget.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
If you guys are ready. And yeah, and
Yep.
just regarding the per diem, because we had to shift to because we had to move our day on the hill, that kind of threw everything into
I
you
figured
Mhm.
know.
so. That's why I
Yeah,
didn't
so
bother you again.
yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, so we kind of pivoted, but I will see if I can get that to you this week if I can. If not, for sure, early next week. Okay,
Okay.
I am going to start sharing my screen right now. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Mhm. Well, no, you don't
Can
have
I
it.
don't
Yeah,
see
I
anything.
can't see it. I can't see anything.
it's just
Okay,
us.
Nope, I
Which
don't see
never
anything.
happens.
righty. All
There
right,
you
There.
can
go.
you see it now? Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
great, great. Okay, so I'm just going to go over some items, and these are just very rough estimates, and it's going to be over the 130,000 because we know that there's going to be some savings that we will incur from actually what we had already budgeted, just due to the fact that we are not doing really live events. And then as we move forward, I'll be working with the staff to see, okay, what are the firm numbers and what are the items that we definitely know we can execute on by June 30th. So if you look at the first grouping, it's marketing and communications. We know that that's a space where we need some assistance. So first off, we need branding assistance. So I put $10,000 to get someone, to hire someone to help us develop what should the marketing plan be. Advertising, that would be the print, radio, whatever it is, online, and that I put 10,000 in there. Marketing elements, we need branded tablecloths, new tablecloths. We need literature. We need various items, banners, all kinds of things to actually, when we go out to events, we'll have that information and have that ready to market who we are. Giveaways, paraphernalia. So we normally give away shirts, pins. The staff might need to have a jacket to identify who they are, lanyards, whatever we believe might be of interest to the community. We want to make sure that we have some of those items to give away. We need stock photos for some of the things that we'll be doing. And so there's a subscription to Unsplash in there. Canva is a tool I know that Flockamy uses quite a bit when she's doing the Evites and some of the flyers. So we want to make sure we get the year subscription to that and see if we can get a discount with that. There's some analytic tools that Ash wants to use for the bulletin. That costs money. And then anytime we're doing any kind of communications, we want to make sure that it is correct. And so we are looking at purchasing a tool for that. Email upgrades. Ash is looking at how do we make our email address more effective and more inviting so that our consumers, our constituents can have a more positive experience. So I don't have a cost for that yet. Outreach, we're looking at doing some things in April, May, and June. April and May, it's more doing a recap of what's going on currently with session. And then in June, kind of maybe doing a statewide, going around the state town hall, telling people about here is what actually occurred in session, and then having those preliminary discussions about, okay, what do we need to start doing over the summer to start actually prepping for next year? So we want to get a jump on that. And so there's 10,000 for that. And then we want to make sure that we have money because anytime you travel, and so that 10,000 would be if we have to rent space, if we have to hire anybody to do anything, catering and what have you. The travel it costs money to go to, say, not necessarily Duluth. It costs some money, but there is, car rental, all of that. But just making sure we have money in the budget. We might have council members who we would take with us to go out and meet our constituents. And so just making sure we have money and funding for that. We talked about having a year-end celebration. This would be some type of reception or event. And that shouldn't say 440. That should say 40 years. So we had a 40-year anniversary, but it was during the pandemic, so we didn't really do anything for that, except for say, hey, we're 40 years old. But we want to make sure that we recognize that, as well as having something, and this would be in the Twin Cities area, to recognize all of the legislative accomplishments. And then our legislators, they've been working really hard. So we said we would try to do something with that. Juneteenth was signed into law, so there's going to be some big celebrations with that. So we want to make sure that we have some funding set aside so that we can think about, okay, what can we do to contribute to the big celebration for that? We do some sponsorships, and I didn't do a spell check on this. I need that Grammarly. But we do know that we need funding to actually purchase table sponsorships. We need to make sure wherever the community is, whether it's the NAACP, Urban League, or wherever they are, whether it's the Black Business Enterprise, we want to make sure that we are there and visible, because it's about connecting with our constituents and making sure that everyone knows that we are here and we are here to provide a service to them, and we want to hear their voice. There are some things that we need to do for the office. We want to be able to host some meetings virtually. The pandemic is here, but at some point we'll be having meetings in community. We'll be having meetings in our office. And so in order to do that, we need to make sure that our virtual capabilities are where they need to be in order to have it function properly. The artwork in the office needs to be culturally relevant, not just to African Americans, but are we having artwork that is diversified and it shows who we actually serve? And then there are just office supplies, paper, pens, pencils, pads, all those kinds of things that we need to spend some funding on. There's some things under staff and board. We are meeting with a consultant. We'll meet with a consultant. I've had some preliminary discussions with a couple of groups where we will have meetings on how will the staff continue to execute on the strategic plan. We have a fairly new staff. Within the last year or so, 2 people came on. I've only been here a little over a couple of years, as well as Theo. So making sure we know how to do that. And then as we bring in new people, we want to make sure that we're continuing to build on the team. And especially since, I put in for a couple more new positions. And if we get that funding, we need to make sure that our team is together, we're on one accord, and that we're going together in the same direction. There's some IT website training that needs to be done. I think they've started some of that. So that we can bring our website up to speed. It looks pretty good, but it's a continuous process. So there's funding required there. There's funding that we need for headphones for the remote work. Some of us have headphones, but not everybody in the office. Professional development. This is an HR thing. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that we are growing our staff. We don't necessarily want somebody to come into the office and be here for 20 years. That's should not be the goal of effective leadership. We should be growing, finding out what the needs are for the staff, and then making sure that we're growing them so that they could go on and provide leadership opportunities elsewhere, or if they want to stay within the department. And that's a key thing, because we need people everywhere in order to move our Black agenda forward. Headshots. It's been brought to my attention that you should get new headshots every 2 to 3 years. So thank you for that, Chair Hughes, for letting me know that. And so set aside some money for that. I think that the board should have business cards. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that when board members are out, they are also out not just as an individual, but some things they should be out because of CMAH. And when you're out regarding CMAH, we want you to have a branded card that gives, you know, your number, but lets people know, hey, I'm representing the council today. So that is something that we're looking at. Data research under projects. So, you know, we've been talking about the fact that there is a lot of missing data. And we're having conversations now. How do we get this data? What do we need to do? And so there's some money set aside for that because it costs money to bring someone on. And that would also tie in with that repository. So developing that repository space. I'm hiring a legislative consultant that says 20,000, but that individual is going to start at 5,000, and this person will go out, do legislative trainings, do trainings about what's going on just in the legal space. They will also have office hours, not really at CMAH unless they need to, but they'll have office hours where the community can call and say, hey, I'm working on this bill, but I don't know what to do. So we want to make sure that we are providing a resource. And then after the $5,000 contract is up, we will, you know, if it works out well, which I think it will, because we're looking at Wintana Melican, I think that's her name. She used to work with former Senator Jeff Hayden, amazing young woman who's making some strides at the Capitol, and she's going to be fabulous in this role. So we want to add value to the community. So set aside some money for that. And then the other thing that was brought to my attention was that we want to make sure that whatever we're putting out there, that we're also looking at it from a disability lens, whether that's the website or our materials, whether our recordings are closed caption. So all of those things. And so I'm going to have somebody take a look at that. So these are just, like I said, rough estimates of things that we could possibly do. And so we'll be nailing these things down. But a lot of these things we will do, but there are some things that we might not be able to fully complete this year. And some things I just added on some money in the just in case. So I will get back to you. Some of these things will have executed or be on the road by next month. And then I'll get back to you with an update as to where we are. But I am pretty confident that we will definitely spend our excess funds.
A lot of information. You appreciate that. And obviously we would have to, the question I would have is, you know, obviously prioritization, because when you look at what you all added up, that's, you know, 185 versus
Right.
the 131. So my presumption is you would come back and then just do a prioritization. Jude, go ahead. And then I want to kind of move us along, get into the speakers, and then we can always come back and revisit this conversation if we need to.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick note that for some of the contracts that require our approval to get going, so we'll be able to have meeting, you know, come to us before the deadline. I know, so we had some challenge last time, not last year, but sometime in the past, trying to identify which contract will be able to go through to the next fiscal year, which one will not. So I think it's good to flesh them out as soon as possible before it's too late. Thank you.
I think the one that maybe would be if we do the data research one. The other ones will be more like the $5,000, and then we would renew based on whether or not we see that the direction is appropriate. But that's, thank you, Councilmember Nadi, for stating that, because that is something for us to consider.
Perfect. Any other questions? So I want to just, because I see that we have a quorum, so let me just move back up. There's just two quick items that we need to approve. And if we can just do it in one, if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the adopted meeting agenda and the consent agenda item, which was the only item that we had was the approval of the minutes from February's meeting. So if I can have a motion to approve those two items, that would be awesome.
So move.
Collins.
So we'll say y'all kind of did it at the same time.
Councilwoman, give me a thinky. I'll still second.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Council Member Mullins moved and Council Member Doe seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? You can unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much. And again, this is more for community members that we do not vote on the financial report because it literally is informational purposes. It's not something that we have to vote on because we're not moving money or anything like that. But we constantly, I'm not constantly, but we, it's a standing agenda item for us to go over our financials just so folks know where we're at. So I'm going to take us to our guests that have been patiently waiting, and I so appreciate you all for that. But we have Department of Public Safety, and we also have boards and commissions that are here as well. So we'll start with Department of Public Safety, and it looks like we have Jordan, and we also have Nicole. So if you all want to take the floor, feel free to unmute and maybe just kind of give a further introduction of your role. So we have one that's Jordan is our legislative director, and then Nicole is the communities affairs director. So if you all want to give a little bit more insight, that would be great. And then we'll go from there. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. And we also have our executive director of Office of Justice Programs joining us, and that is Kate Weeks. So she'll be providing part of the presentation tonight as well. Yes, my name is Nicole Archbold. I'm the Community Affairs Director. I'll go a little bit more into that as we get into the presentation. I think I'll just go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So tonight, the presentation that we're going to provide is the one similar to the Mind, Body, Soul presentation series that happened earlier this year. In addition to this, we have two full presentations that were provided to the Senate, to the Transportation and Public Safety Committees. That one will be presented to Public Safety tomorrow, and the other is provided to the Transportation Committee. So we can provide those full decks to you as well, so that you have the full comprehensive DPS budget you can peruse at your leisure. So I'm going to give you a little background on Department of Public Safety. We have a new commissioner this year, Bob Jacobson, who was appointed in January. And DPS has 14 total divisions. 11 of them are public facing. Many of them people are familiar with, like the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the State Patrol, the State Fire Marshal's Office, Office of Justice Programs, which Kate, Director Weeks is representing. We do emergency communications, so the backbone of the 911 system in the state, alcohol and gambling enforcement, driver and vehicle services, emergency management. So basically the FEMA division in Minnesota. We have communications division. So there's a lot of very, very diverse services that the Department of Public Safety provides besides just enforcement. And so some of this you'll hear tonight is going to be reflective of that. And my role here, it was the first, in 2019, it's the first community-facing position that this agency that had ever had, and that was an initiative that Commissioner Harrington started. Prior to that, there was never a place for community to really come to share concerns or learn how to navigate the agency or a place to have guidance about, for the agency about how to work better with community. And so it's been a really busy 4 years, and we've gotten a lot done. We've done some really big initiatives. You might have been familiar with the Deadly Force Encounters Working Group, which was the backbone of the 2020 Police Accountability Act. That was something that I worked on with Commissioner and Attorney General. We did a lot of interfaith outreach and communication and engagement throughout the pandemic, especially as it related to how the restrictions and how the restrictions would affect gatherings in places of worship, and how that affected communities after the murder of George Floyd and during the trial of Derek Chauvin. There was a lot of community involvement, community conversations, and I did a lot of that work alongside the commissioner and some of our other leaders here in the department. So it's been really busy on those fronts. And then in addition to that, our divisions have been doing a really great job getting to know our communities and getting out of the four walls of our agency. And last summer, we did over 25 events out in the community. So everything from Juneteenth to Safe Summer Nights and what's going on here in St. Paul with the St. Paul PD. So we went to different communities and just provided a lot of information that they might not have otherwise had, from driver and vehicle services, how to renew their licenses, or how to get information from Office of Justice Programs. Director Weeks had her staff out there. So it's just been really busy. And so that's a little bit about my role here. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Weeks.
So some of the to elaborate more, some of the things that Office of Justice Programs has been doing specifically involves working really, really closely with hospital-based intervention programs to make sure that they understand and have access and understand the resources we have, such as the Crime Victim Reparations Program and other resources in the community that might be beneficial. We do have staff who are attending prayer vigils. So after an event happens, we use the example of the little boy who was shot getting off of the bus. You could identify that little boy and his family, but there was a whole bus full of kids that just witnessed violence. And under our Crime Victim Reparations Program, they are also eligible for mental health benefits. And so in attending prayer vigils and making those connections in community, it's so important, because then we can figure out how to get to families who have been directly impacted. Because a lot of times they don't know, and especially in a time of trauma, that there are resources available. We work with schools to make sure that they understand what resources are available. We meet with the Minneapolis Public Schools Safety and Security team. And then we work closely with boots on the ground teams to get information out to community. And that can look into about crime victim reparations, but we also, during the pandemic, really, when we saw a lot of violence go back behind closed doors, we were trying to think of creative ways to get information out. So we put together, they're about the size of a bookmark, and on there in 3 different languages is information about domestic violence help, sexual violence, trafficking, and crime victim reparations. And that way, our thought is, there's a lot of community testing sites and then vaccination sites. So we wanted to be able to get that information into packets of information. So it might not be apparent to someone who might be an abuser, but a victim of violence could have that information in a quiet manner. So those were some of the things that we've been working on specifically. And in addition, OJP, along with the Department of Public Safety as a whole, has really been looking at what can we be doing as violence is increasing. So a lot of the work that we do at the Office of Justice Programs is violence prevention and intervention. So what are we doing for youth intervention, youth delinquency prevention, crime victim prevention and intervention, and really we've granted out about $45 million above and beyond what our current grant amount was, using federal COVID dollars to try to try and get that money into community to serve victims in a different way, because a lot of the organizations, as you know, had to pivot during the pandemic as well. Someone's not just going to necessarily walk in the door, so helping organizations pivot in how you reach victims. And we did that through outreach to direct service organizations as well. We also fund organizations such as Breaking Free, who do a lot of work in the trafficking area. Breaking Free we fund, but Breaking Free also works really closely with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension's Human Trafficking Task Force. And so there's a lot of cross-division work under the DPS umbrella as well. OJP also funds the Juvenile Justice Advisory. We support the Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee, and that is a group of individuals. It's across state agencies, county agencies, local community organizations, all driven towards stopping that crib to pipeline, prison pipeline. And so what are those interventions? How do you support youth and family before they even touch the juvenile justice system? And if they do touch the juvenile justice system, what are the protections and services that kids and their families need during that time? And so JJAC has been growing and expanding, and some of the subgroups that they have started really focus on youth and mental health needs of kids in the juvenile justice system. How are you connecting kids to parents if parents are incarcerated? And a whole community outreach, and then really leaning into utilizing the expertise and knowledge of kids who have been in the criminal justice system or in the juvenile justice system, and really trying to understand fully, what do you need? What would have been beneficial, instead of, you know, all of these professionals actually pivoting to those with the lived experience. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension also has a violent crime initiative, and State Patrol has been doing more high visibility patrols, and those have been talked about in the press as well. Linda here is our favorite. The Office of Justice Programs, we were honored to be able to support the work of the Missing and Murdered African American Women Task Force. A report was released in December 2020 after a very robust and quick year of meetings with the task force. And the organization that we went to, Research in Action, also utilized an advisory group of women with lived experience to really inform the work and the report. From that report is a list of recommendations that came out. The Office of Justice Program and the governor's budget is advocating alongside Linda and a bunch of advocates and individuals with lived experience to establish a ongoing funded office dedicated to stopping violence against Black women and girls in a lot of different ways. It was a very robust report, but we acknowledge that that work needs to continue. It's not going to be done overnight by any stretch of the imagination. So we are working on that. And so a little bit about OJP in general, because there's a lot of you here, and I want to make sure everyone knows like what we do and what we have available. So one of the big things that we talk about is our crime victim reparations program. So if you're a victim of a violent crime, you may be eligible to receive reimbursements for financial loss that you might have encountered. So that could be funeral and burial costs, that could be medical bills, that could be mental health trauma-informed care, it could be lost wages, it could be dependent care. And we do not cover property crime, but all of the violent crimes that you know, we do cover. We also have a crime victim justice unit. In the state of Minnesota, in statute, there's a whole list of rights that crime victims have, and it ranges from access to police reports all the way to getting notification of different court proceedings, if sentencing changes, if a person's going to get out. So we have a unit, we have a group of advocates. So if someone is not getting notifications, or they're having trouble accessing their police report, or they have questions about the criminal justice process, or they feel they're not getting in the information that they need, we have advocates on staff to help navigate that. We also have, well, not currently, but historically, we've had a statistical analysis center, and this is where a lot of our research, analysis, data collection and tracking, and report writing happens. Previously, that Statistical Analysis Center was funded by whatever grants they could get. And so their work was really, really tied to that particular grant, which we quickly learned did not serve community. It did not serve the agency. It did not serve the commissioner's office. It did not serve the legislature. And so we are asking in the governor's budget for an ongoing investment so that when someone comes to our office and like, is this program effective? How do you do evaluation? What are the trends in public safety right now? Where should we be funding? Are there communities that have historically not been able to access these resources, and why? So really having a group of staff dedicated to that work. And then the last thing is what everybody seems to know. We are the primary grantor of funds, both state and federal, for crime victim services. So that could be domestic violence, shelter, sexual assault, child abuse. We also fund sex trafficking investigation task forces, violent crime enforcement teams, which are gang and drug intervention programs, task forces throughout the state. We fund youth intervention programs. We fund delinquency prevention programs. We fund community crime prevention programs, and a lot of little ones in between. And so it's a pretty robust unit for our granting. Next slide.
We'll get into more of what the requests are
Yeah.
through the legislature. Yep.
So like I said, well, here's some more information that you can take away about our crime victim reparations program. I touched on that a little bit before. So if anyone has any questions or needs additional information, there is a bunch of information on our website in different languages, which is really helpful. We currently launched in the past 2 years, we launched a portal where you can file electronically. Previously, it was only by paper, so that is a huge investment that's been really, really helpful for victims of crime, especially because what we know to be true is that, you know, if you are in trauma, sitting down and filling out all of this paperwork about some of the worst things that have ever happened to you doesn't just happen at a moment, right? So it allows people to start the process, come back to the process, seek help with the process, and then it's a lot more trauma informed and user friendly. Next slide. And then, yep, and then the Crime Victim Justice Unit. And so this is a slide that we use for the Mind, Body, Soul to really talk about, and it's painful to see, but I know you all know this, is that the first Black individuals are 5.9 times as more likely as their white counterparts to be a victim of a crime. And the next slide. Black individuals are also 9 times more likely to be victims of aggravated assault. And the next slide is women are more likely to be victims of crime. And the reason why we put this in here is to really talk about, when we talk about historically underserved populations or historically marginalized populations, this is something the Office of Justice Programs is pivoting. We can see there are communities that have higher impact of crime, are impacted, there is disparities, and Office of Justice Programs needs to be getting out information. We need to be funding programs. We need to be getting information into the hands of individuals who can benefit from our services, and it needs to be targeted. And so one of the things that you'll see, we included it in the supplemental budget last year, and it's in the governor's budget this year, is we want a robust investment, and we call it community engagement, but it really is working with you all, organizations, grantees, getting out into spaces where we haven't been to really figure out, where is this information needed? Where is this support needed? Where are these resources needed? And if there are barriers to accessing these resources, how do we address those? What does that look like? What can we be doing together? So really, you all know this, and we know this. And so really looking forward to developing really a lot stronger partnerships and figuring out how to do that together. The other thing we heard through the Mind, Body, Soul working groups is really stopping that pipeline of, a lot of people say school to jail, But we know if you have strong families and communities and youth, you need to start that pipeline earlier. And so one of the things that we look at is some of our resources that we have is our youth intervention programs. How do you keep kids from touching the juvenile justice system? So we are asking for an increase in funding for youth intervention and other intervention and prevention programs. We are also asking for another staff person in our youth justice office to be a data specialist, because a lot of information is data driven. How do we know where those gaps are? How do we know where resources need to go? How are we doing in reducing ethnic and racial disparities in the juvenile justice system? And so we want a data person to help us gather that information and make sure that we are on track. And if we need to adjust, we can adjust. And then we've also asking for an investment. The School Safety Center is technically in our Homeland Security and Emergency Management division, but they are also asking for additional resources to help schools train and create safe environments for our youth. The other one that we heard and is about housing, and that is no joke. And so one of the things that we fund are domestic violence shelters. We are hearing a lot that domestic violence shelters are full. Some of that is because incidences are increasing, but a lot of it is a lot of individuals are seeking that emergency shelter right away, but then there's nowhere to go. It's really hard to access permanent housing. And so we are looking at two proposals. One is called the Domestic Violence Housing First Program, which provides additional resources that are not shelter-based. And so it's looking at other forms or alternative forms of safe housing. And it also provides more resources for community organizations to provide mobile advocacy. Like we talked about during the pandemic, it was really hard for individuals to actually get to a brick and mortar building for help. And so trying to fund advocacy to go where people can be who are in order to be safe. We are also looking at investing in our own transitional housing programs. We work really closely with the other housing organizations at the state, but what we know is that a lot of traditional transitional housing programs don't have the specific services that victims of crime need as they are trying to get on their feet and find permanent housing. So we are looking at investing in transitional housing as well. And both of those pieces are in the governor's budget. And I will hand it back over to Nicole.
Those were a few highlights from Office of Justice Programs. In the packets that you're going to get that go far more in depth to the budget, you'd need like an hour and a half to go through our budget. And we're happy to come back and talk more. You'll see more in depth the line items and what the investments are specifically from Office of Justice Programs. And so those were just some of the highlights and how they would be operationalized. So the next proposal that we have is for community affairs, and this is to expand the work. Right now, it's a shop of one, which is me. And we'd love to do more work across the state. And there's just a really high need. There's a lot of opportunities that we're not able to capitalize on. And so this would grow the ability for our agency to get out and to work with some of our diverse communities across the state. So we look forward to seeing that and hopefully come to fruition. And I think, Jordan, you can take this one.
Yeah, I certainly can. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Haltofter-Hyde, and I am the Legislative Director for the Department of Public Safety. So on this, a lot of information on this slide, but what we have heard wherever we go and whoever we talk to is safety is a big concern. It's top of mind for everybody. Children, youth, and families affected, and they need support. People are being shot in their homes, and we need to do more about guns as an administration. So there's a lot of proposals in our governor's budget. A lot of them are investments in the Office of Justice programs that focus on prevention and intervention services, grant programs that include, our youth-focused investments, community crime prevention, additional survivor supports, and juvenile diversion initiatives, all really important things that we want to make sure get additional funding. There's also an establishment of a violent crime support unit within the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And this really is focused at trying to find the individuals who are committing the most harm to our communities and getting illegal guns off the streets. You may have seen in the news, specifically in Minneapolis, we're doing some of this work already. We think we can do more, and we also think it needs to be statewide. While the metro gets a lot of attention for violent crime has increased everywhere in the state. So we want to make sure this team has the ability to go statewide and can also really partner with local communities to make sure that they are involved in keeping their community safe. The bottom bullet point there is on proposing extreme risk protection orders, commonly known as red flag laws, and universal background checks for gun owners. So really trying to address the two really big things in terms of gun safety, of trying to keep guns out of people's hands who shouldn't have them. So those are really quick on those points, and there's a lot more detail we could go into. Nicole, you want to go to the next slide? The next piece actually lives in our transportation budget for the governor, and it's something that I think people think we have, and maybe we should have it, but it is the collection of race and ethnicity data on the driver's license. So we think this is a really powerful tool. So we're asking for it as part of the application. It would be voluntary. No one would have to give it, and it's self-identified using the same categories as the U.S. Census Bureau. This information would not be provided to law enforcement in their system. It would also not be printed on the card. It would be classified as private data with an exemption for our Office of Traffic Safety. And why we want that exemption is the data can then be used by the researchers there to look at the race information provided, race and ethnicity data provided, and things like traffic stops and citations. There are states that do this really well. Connecticut's a great example where you can go county by county, police agency by police agency, and really see this information of who is getting pulled over. So that'll take a long time to get there, or at least take some time to get there with it being voluntary. And we're also a bigger state than Connecticut, but it is a goal that we see in a model. And that would take effect January 1st of 2024. So a little bit of time, but and I think that's the end of that, but we do think that's a really important tool that we could have.
Yeah, and then the other note with that comes with that is driver's license are renewed every 4 years.
Yep.
And so it would take a cycle of 4 years to potentially capture the full spectrum of the pool of Minnesotans that would be eligible to contribute to adding their self-identified race or ethnic data to the system. So with that, that kind of combined an overview of the agency with what we're asking for. And again, we're happy to come back after you have a chance to look more details at more details in our budget. So.
No, thank you for that, for all three of you all, Kate, Nicole, and Jordan. I see Councilmember Dukes has a question, and I just going to give a little bit of time to folks that may have, one or two questions. So he says, thank you for the comprehensive support of all the work that is happening across the state to address public safety. I am curious to know what you see as barriers and gaps in the system.
There are
kind of a loaded question.
And good to see you, Mr. Dukes. Yeah, data is definitely one of them, and we found that out over the last couple years. And so I think that proposal to begin to close that gap is a start. So I think a lack of data, and I'll also say, when I came to the state from Minneapolis 4 years ago, that was something that I couldn't wrap my mind around, because I was like, I'm at the state now. I can't wait to get my hands on this data. And Kate knows, and our other division directors know. I was like, where's the data? What do we know? What do we know? And it's appalling to me how little data that there actually is available at the state and in the Department of Public Safety. So in all, whether it's and they've made strides over the last 4 years in different ways, but from whether it's traffic crash data, gun violence victim data, fines and fees data, like all of that, and so just data in general. But that's what I would say.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
and I can just add really quick because I think it highlights something that's in our budget, is the community engagement. When I took this role, I was shocked that we only had Nicole and that there was only one of Nicole. There's a giant state with so many different stakeholders and communities that we need to be in, and they can inform all the work that we do, all the work at all of our divisions, at the legislature. And whenever I see Nicole's door is open and she's available, I end up popping my head in to ask her a question about something. And truthfully, we just need more. We need more people like Nicole on the team to do community engagement for all of our divisions, because I think we have work there, but we need to get out and tell people about it. And then we need to hear from the community of what we can do better. And we only have one person doing that. And some divisions can do a decent job themselves. I know OJP is working on that, but yes, more Nicoles. That's my championship this year is
Thanks,
try to get that.
Jordan.
And it's also true for our tribal liaisons. Like we have one tribal liaison, there are 11 tribal nations. That I think she puts more miles on her car than our state troopers do, driving around everybody. So looking at that too is something that we really need to do a better job at here at DPS.
No, that's good. One last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to our boards and commission. We continue to place more of a burden on our schools to do more than teach and learn. Is it possible to support efforts of community-based programs with more funding? And it says African heritage programs that really fill the gaps for our youth. And this came from Councilmember Crawford.
Yeah, I think there is a big gap when we talk about gaps. Culturally specific programming is a big gap that we see in our funding. And so a lot of our funding, and you'll see that specific language in a lot of the bills actually moving through the legislature right now, is for that culturally specific programming. I think schools do what they can. I think the Department of Education is looking at that as well, as they should. Our youth intervention programs also provide some of those services, but that is absolutely when we talk about gaps, and even culturally specific domestic violence shelters and services. That is something that we're looking for as well.
Carl, go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Yeah.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Thank you all for your hard work and continued work. It feels like a Monday all over again. If you go back to the graph you had of the age group of the people who are impacted by violent crimes, that number moves past our high school age. So in looking at opportunities to meet our young people, 18 to 25, is there opportunity to put more funding in there where we can actually reach our kids, young people, about violence and the impact of violence in their lives?
Yeah,
I think it was this one. Yeah, 24 to 35.
Isn't
No,
that
35 to
crazy?
49. Yeah.
Yeah, that one really struck me too, and 35 to 49. And so I think a lot of that could be domestic violence and sexual assault related. A lot of times that impacts older individuals. But one of the things we see too with domestic abuse is a lot of youth are in relationships that are not healthy, but they think they are because they're surrounded by the same behaviors in every other relationship. And so one of the things that we want to do is education on what is a healthy relationship and options. And I think with youth intervention programs, they do go up to 25 because of that very exactly what you talked about. It's not, your youth doesn't end at 18, right? And we know a lot about brain development and that you really need those services later. But our community crime prevention grant program is really, really broad, and that's intentional. We don't want it to be prescriptive because it really is community coming together to figure out what is the best way for us to address crime in our community. And we have funded things ranging from neighborhood watch programs to like mentorship programs to truancy programs. It runs the gamut. Elder abuse prevention. So that is a place where exactly that, like if a community sees like, no, we have a project, we have a program that's serving this population, they're statistically more likely to be victims of crime. That is something that would be eligible under our community crime prevention grant program. But it needs more funding. Yeah, just needs, we always get more requests than we have money available. So we're in the governor's budget, we're asking for a significant investment in that because it is so broad and so flexible.
Outstanding. Thank you all for your hard work. Thank you.
No, this has been great, and I do see that there was one question that Wayne, Vice Chair Doe had posed, which was, is there a specific timeline to create the partnerships that you need to identify or address specific community organizations that could access the resources and funding available? And I think this is probably something where we could be working together. You know, so looking at the council and how we could work, you know, closer together with you all as well. But I don't know if have you all even identified. I know sometimes we say, hey, as many partnerships as we can. Sometimes we put a metric to it. So I don't know if you all have done that.
I'll just quickly speak. So OJP, when I came to it, was a very internally faced organization, and we've been pivoting to having it be an externally faced organization. So we're going through some significant transitions right now. And so my response is forever. I don't want to just be like, here's my list, we clicked it off, and now we're done because we have these partnerships. I think I want OJP to be set up for those partnerships to outlast anyone that's in the organization right now and outlast all of us. It's just a course of business. So I will say forever.
Well, definitely, it sounds like we will be doing some follow-up discussion with you all to see how we can better assist. And specifically, when you're trying to do the outreach for specific communities, I think that's where the council can be instrumental in reaching out to our constituents and really kind of informing and educating as well. Well, thank you all so much. Greatly appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesday evening, especially when some of you were there yesterday. to be a day on the hill. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna move us along here. So thank you all. We have Emily that is here. Emily, is Jackie coming too, or are you solo dolo?
I believe I am solo.
Okay.
I don't see Jack, but she sends her regards.
No, not a problem. So we have Emily McGuire, who is the Associate Director of Boards and Commissions, and we thought it'd be helpful for you to come and bring some information for us. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Yes, I'm gonna present here in Teams. Thank you, Chair Hughes, for having me and our team here at this meeting. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep, now we can.
Perfect. So yeah, like Chair Hughes said, I'm Emily McGuire. I'm the Associate Director of Boards and Commissions at the Governor's Office. And so that means I work on appointments for various boards, commissions, commissioners, executive directors, things like that. So today I want to go over the appointments process broadly and how you can get involved, but I always like to start with some positives and kind of really set the tone. So the governor makes over 1,800 appointments a term. So in 2019 to 2022, the governor made over 1,800 appointments, and that'll continue through the second term. And so this is a really important part of the governor's work and our office's work. And so we do spend a lot of time working on these appointments. It's really our goal to increase diversity in our appointments. We've done a good job on that in term 1, and we want to continue to build on that in term 2. Just a few pieces from the news, just kind of shouting out the good work. So Tad Johnson was appointed to the Board of Regents, and he is the first Native American appointed to the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. So while we recognize that it shouldn't have taken till 2022, at least it has happened, and we're really excited to see what Tad Johnson continues to do on the Regents. Then also the Minnesota Emerging Entrepreneurs Board. A lot of those appointments were covered in local newspapers because a lot of the people appointed were from smaller towns and smaller cities, and they're entrepreneurs in their area, and then also some entrepreneurs in the cities as well. And so those have just been some places that the appointments have been in the news. Recently, the governor appointed the Advisory Council on Substance Use of Opioids, which is really cool. That was passed into legislation last session. So lots of good work on our end. So then kind of going into more about what exactly it means to be on a board. So the Council of Minnesotans for African Heritage is a board that the governor appoints to. So many of you may be familiar with this process, but there's hundreds of boards. We like to joke there's boards from A to Z, so accountancy to the zoo. There's a lot of really different topics. Basically, anything you're interested in, there's probably a board that somehow covers that. Every day I learn of more things that different boards cover, like low-level radioactive waste. And so really there's a place for everyone and every interest on the state boards and commissions. And I think it's a really unique opportunity to get involved in Minnesota. So then on every board, there can be different seat types. And so when we do these presentations, we just like to walk through them because it can be kind of confusing. So there'll be professional seats. And so this would be, you know, you need to be a licensed nurse, you need to be a licensed dentist, you need to be a certified public accountant. So those are the more professional seats, and it'll say in statute, like, you need to have this licensure. And then there are public member seats, which are purely public members. So these are people that are not financially, professionally, maritally tied to whatever is being licensed or whatever the board covers. And these are a super unique opportunity for, let's say, you think nursing's interesting, but you did not want to be a nurse, but you know, you kind of want to get involved that way. You could apply to be a public member on the board of nursing. There's public members on the board of accountancy, the board of occupational therapy. So really a lot of different public member seats. Then there'll be geographic and demographic requirements. So some require that, you know, 50% of the members are from outside the metro area, or 50% of the members are deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. So there can be different requirements like that that we also balance. And a lot of those requirements are to make sure that there's diverse voices on all of our boards, because we know Minnesota's better when everyone has a voice at the table. And so getting people on boards and commissions is one way to have everyone represented. So then the screen here just shows where you can actually go to, one, find more information about any board or commission that the governor appoints to, and then also apply. So if you go to the Secretary of State's website, which is the website that's stated there, there's a boards and commissions tab, and you can search by board, you can search by position. So let's say you're a parent and you're really interested in representing parents on a board, there are parent seats. So you can search in the member spot, you can search like parent, and it'll bring up all the seats that are designated for parents. And then every board has its own page, and on that page is information about what seats are currently vacant, board information such as, is there a par diem? When are the meetings? What does the board cover? And then contact information for the board, and that's usually the board staff and then also the chair. So that's kind of what you can find here. Then I did just want to quickly shout out kind of our yearly timeline. So in October is when we post a lot of the vacancies for the upcoming year. So in October 2022, we posted the current 2023 vacancies. Then you'll see a lot of times there's a first review date. That is because statutorily we have to wait a certain amount of time before the governor can make an appointment so that the appointment is open. And so sometimes it'll say first review date is November 7th. That does not mean that you cannot still apply. It just means that that was the first day that we could review the applications. So we just always want to tell people, like, you can still apply. We still need applicants. So then January 2 of this year was when over 800 boards and commissions vacancies opened up. And then a lot of those will have to be filled by June 30th. So as you can imagine, we're in appointment season. We're pretty busy. I know everyone is with legislative session and all that stuff. So the appointments team is no different. But we really are working on outreach, getting seats filled, and things like that until June 30th. After that, we have some boards that have different timelines and just vacancies that come up naturally. And so that's kind of what we do. The second half of the year is more planning, prepping, outreach, and coming and doing boards that didn't have this timeline, but most boards fall into this timeline. So then I just want to tell you all what you bring to the table. So whether I'm speaking directly to you, asking you to apply to something, or you're going to go tell someone, I think you should apply to a board or commission, this is what everyone brings to the table for boards and commissions. You bring your own knowledge, you bring your own perspective, everyone has their own life experiences, skills, talents, and all of those are really needed on these boards. That's why we have public members, because that public perspective is so important on these boards. And so really there's no one that can serve like you could serve. And so we really want to push everyone to apply to a board, but let's say you don't have any time. We know lots of people are really involved and doing a lot of great work. Maybe you have a cousin or you have an aunt or you have a friend or a coworker that wants to get more involved. This is a great way to do that. If you want to share the news on social media, I think we're going to be in your all's newsletter coming up here soon. So maybe sharing those vacancies. And then another way you can get involved is provide us feedback. So let's say you don't have the time to be on another board, totally fine, we get it. But you want to recommend someone to be on the board. You can send us a letter of recommendation for them. You could send us an email that just says like, hey, so-and-so applied. I really recommend them. And we really appreciate that. It helps us in our process. And I'll share our email at the end. So that's kind of my plea to all of you to either apply to a board or commission or tell at least one person, make my day, tell someone to apply for a board or commission. But that is all I have for tonight. Jack and I share an email. Just if one of us is out, we could both have access to this email. And so this is the best email if you want to send us a letter of rec, you have a question, you want to connect us with a newsletter, you want to connect us to your other organization that also has a meeting like this, I will come speak. And so that's kind of my spiel, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And then also I can provide some information if you guys have like minutes or anything, and that would be helpful. So I'll stop there, but thanks so much. I'm really happy I could come.
No, thank you, Emily. Are there any questions for Emily?
This is not a question. Oh, go ahead.
Chair Hughes, I have questions.
Yep, go ahead.
So Emily, first off, thank you for joining us. We've been working with your office, your agency for quite a while now. So we're excited to do that and see if we can get some people of color, especially African heritage individuals on these boards. That's our goal. But question for you, we do have a few openings within our own board, and our timing has normally been a May timeframe to be filled. And I was just curious to know if that is going to continue or whether or not you have a different timeline.
So Jack and I kind of split the boards like portfolio wise, and so Jack has your board, so I don't know for sure. I know we have been really trying to stick to our timeline, but then also we understand like some boards have, their most important meeting is in April and they're scheduled for May, so we kind of do a lot of like we can be flexible if there's need to be flexible, but Jack and I have been trying to stick with our schedule that we set. And so, yes, I would anticipate, without talking to Jack, I can say like, hopefully it'll be in May, but Jack would definitely be the answer there.
Great. Thank you.
Lockamy, go ahead. I know you had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks, Emily, for all your work that you've done. We have been posting some of those through our meetings that we have. So we have been posting those not jobs, but we have been posting just any openings that we see, and that's been really helpful for our community. So please keep them coming. I always try to think of specific folks or groups, organizations that would benefit from that. So I appreciate the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. You all have been a great partner with our office, and we're very appreciative. And we'll just keep sending blurbs. I swear, I write blurbs every day.
Yeah, the blurbs are great because like we'll put them in our newsletter, but then we can also share them on social media too. So it's been really great.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Emily? Well, Emily, as always, thank you. It's always good to have, you and or Jackie come because a lot of times people don't necessarily know the process and I will get an email saying I applied, I haven't heard. I'm like, that's not quite how it works.
Yes, I think when you put it in the context of, there's 700, 800 appointments that become open on one day, it's like, oh, so it's an interesting system that they all become open on one day, but Jack and I do our best. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come talk. I threw our email in the chat.
Perfect.
Feel free to email us if you have letters of rec or specific questions or want to know more about a certain board. So I just appreciate the opportunity to come.
No, awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your patience as we kind of got through, everyone here. So appreciate it. You have a great night. Thank you. All right. So we did miss putting public comment. So before we go to unfinished business, Ben, are you still on the call? I know you had wanted to present.
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. A little bit of background for me. I'm a former board member of the Council on Black Minnesotans as they evolved into the Council on Minnesotans of African Heritage. I'm going to be assisted by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correct, Ash Musarna is going to help
Yes, that's correct.
with the presentation. But before I cue her to play this 4-minute video, a little bit of background. I'm the founder and executive director of African American Registry. And we had a bill that passed in 2016 that put us in front of University of St. Thomas School of Education and the Metropolitan State University School of Urban Education for 2 years, working with teacher candidates, about 700 to 800 of them, to use our culturally relevant content and the pedagogy that comes along with it, which includes lesson plans and work plans and tutorials. And we did a data report assessment with our discovery surveys, and we found out that 30% of the students we worked with for those 2 years were from Greater Minnesota, and we're going to take their skills of more diverse curriculum to Greater Minnesota, and we had an 85% approval rate. So that, coupled with our observations going forward, finding out that one of the greatest challenges that all of the core 4 and 5 area teacher candidates were having revolved around the K-12 buildings they were working in, and the fact that the students, regardless of whether it was kindergarten or 12th grade, was not reading at grade level. So that prompted us to take a look at how could we move forward to help the state of Minnesota, both with content and with literacy. And with that, I would ask for the 4-minute video to be played, and then I'll comment after that and let you know before the video plays that my goal is to get support for our current bill from the Council of Minnesotans of African Heritage. So if you please play the video, that'd be great, and then I'll step in.
Before I play the video, can everybody on the call see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, let's press play here.
No volume though, Ash.
Oh, thank you. 1 second. All right, let me stop staring at my screen for 1 moment here. Okay.
I think there's a way when you share it that I don't know if that's Zoom though. I might be thinking of Zoom, where you click that you want your volume to be heard.
Thank you. One sec.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
while we are waiting for the video to start, I was just wondering if maybe Benjamin can tell us where he is in the process, where his bill is now.
Be more than happy to. The bill is Senate File 1753, House File 1885. We've got bipartisan support going for us. We had our first hearing in the Senate 2 weeks ago. They moved us along to the omnibus committee. And we're looking for a current hearing in the House, and that's kind of where we're a little more stagnant, not moving as fast as we would like to. Again, we have bipartisan support in the Senate. Our signers are, let me see, we have Senator Nelson, we have Senator Putnam, we have Senator Swazinski, we have Senator Duckworth as well. In the House, we have Representative Knorr, Representative Wolgamott, Representative Frazier, Representative Hanson, and our author is Caleb Berg. So
Ben, can you repeat the House file number again?
House file is 1885.
Okay.
We're asking for $500,000 to work with Greater Minnesota and install and create our software, the readability level system. And in our estimates, we've scoped that software for 3 years. We feel that with repeated use, we can narrow the gap of reading comprehension between non-white and white students by 10%. And let's see, what else can I say?
And so is it, just to kind of get clarification, is it a letter of support that you're looking from us?
Whatever type of support you're used to giving.
Okay.
It can be a letter, it can be someone that can tag along with me when we do get our House hearing. It could be both.
Okay.
Back to what I was trying to infer, we have letters of commitment from University of St. Thomas and Concordia University, St. Paul. We also have one coming from Minnesota State University, Mankato, and we're in conversations with Morehead State as well to try and serve the greater Minnesota area. And our report, which was not requested in our first bill, we created it ourselves because we like to assess ourselves and do better. That is sitting in the Senate library. I'd be more than happy to send a copy of it to all of you to go over. It's only about 10 pages, and it's very thorough.
So what I think what we're gonna do, because I know the typically public comments are usually like a minute and a half or so. And so I know the video is 4 minutes. What I would ask is that Ash sends that to all of the board members, all the council members rather, along with that document that you were talking about.
Sure.
And so I think I don't think that there's a problem that unless anybody has any opposition of being able to support this House file, after we've had a chance to review the video and the document. I didn't hear you, Ben.
Senator Fateh is very, very supportive of the bill.
Perfect. Nope, that's perfect. Any council members have any questions in reference to what Ben is talking about? And I know it'll be helpful once you all see the document and are able to watch the video, but I'm just looking at the time too. And I know that we kind of, I mean, we got a little bit late start, but then we also had a little bit of the presentations go over.
And I appreciate your decision going forward. What I will do is I will send links in the chat to
Perfect.
to everyone for all three pieces, both the Senate and the House version. They're identical.
Okay.
And a link to the Fox News interview as well. And I'll get the document through email to you.
Perfect. And then what we can do, I'm assuming, Linda, you can follow back up with Ben, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, just you can give me a contact, send me a text or an email, whichever is easiest for you. I'm very interested in the support because I think, much like your agenda yesterday at the Rotunda, you know, this is the time.
Yeah.
This is the time, and the fact that we do such great work through, you know, there's always this stuff going around that, you know, communities of color, the kids really need this, that, or the other, and all of that is true. But these white kids, they need to know more as well. You know, they're as whacked as anybody else through the kind of watered down, conservative, male-dominated, Eurocentric curriculum that has been putting out, and that's what we address. It's
right. No, definitely appreciate that, and appreciate your work on this as well.
Well, thank you very much. I will excuse myself after I get the things into the chats, and I will look for a response going forward, and I can always find Linda.
Perfect. And as you know, you're welcome to stay.
I don't know what's left on your agenda, but I will hang around.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. So let's move to Day on the Hill debrief. CMAH staff looking more for feedback from you all. I know that there was quite a few people that were there, and I know we had kind of a mini debrief with a few of us afterwards, and we had mentioned that we felt like there probably would have been more people than what even attended, so we possibly could have had it packed even more with the date change. And so I know some of that was lots of folks were planning on the February 24th, and then when we changed the date, obviously due to the circumstances of the weather, which made sense, that kind of caused, you know, some folks to say now they weren't able to be there. So CMAH staff, interested in what you all want to debrief about this.
So I'm going to let Flockme and Ash speak about it because they rocked it out. But I really just want to say to the board, thank you. You guys were there. I mean, Narita, you and Jude did a phenomenal job emceeing. And then Wayne was the closer. Carl came up. So it was just a beautiful thing to see the council board members in action. And even the ones who weren't on stage, Andre was there. I mean, so it was just Twana. And if I missed somebody, I'm sorry, but I think we pretty much had full participation outside of the people who just could not be there. And so I was very excited about it. And I want to give a shout out I want to say congratulations to Flockme and Ash. Fantastic. It was just a wonderful, wonderful event. I got so many compliments. People were emailing me and texting me saying, oh, it was outstanding, outstanding, so much information, blah, 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 blah. And that is due to the efforts and the energy that you two put into it to make sure it was successful. So Theo was engaged on the front end, and then we know, he had, personal family reasons, but you guys were in there, and it was just wonderful. So I couldn't have been happier. So I just want to say thank you to the staff and thank you to the council members. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We're making it happen for our people so that they can have information that they need so that we can move our community forward. So Ash and Flakami, feel free to give your comments.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for supporting this event. I think it was a huge success. We had over 134 people registered. I know we had at least 100 people there, or at least 75 to 100 there. And it was a really successful event. The majority of the House representatives, along with the Attorney General and the Senator Bobby Joe Champion, who's the Senate President, were in attendance. And I think they really rallied up the base. Folks were really excited just to be able to have something like this in person. This is our first in-person event since COVID, and it was a really great opportunity for folks to connect within the community. But some of the comments and questions I was getting afterwards were really focused on the work that we're doing and how people can get involved. So I think it really set a precedent for us and is really great for us moving forward. We also had really great partners with both chapters of the Links as well as ALF. And so that was really helpful just to connect with strong community members as well. The Links really came through with their membership. And so that was really helpful. I think just for folks to kind of see familiar faces as well. And ALF being able to bring some of their resources and advertising was really helpful for us as well. So we also, we had it was very good with other community organizations being in attendance. And we did have some press that was there as well. So that was really great to see. So thanks to everyone again for attending, spreading the word, and supporting this event. Ash, do you have anything that you would like to add or mention?
Sure. I think that we should also give a shout out to our vendors that were supporting us with advertising. So that was Chalet, the Sahan Journal, and the Spokesman Recorder. It's great to see them supporting us. I had folks ask me how they could work for the council, and I had to inform them that unfortunately, we are fortunately for them, fortunately for us, we're fully staffed. So I think seeing an intergenerational crowd of people genuinely excited to be there and get involved was really beautiful to watch. I think, I don't know, from a behind the scenes operation standpoint, I think that I'm really impressed with our entire team and with the board. This is the first time any one of us has planned an event to this scale as a team at the state of Minnesota during a pandemic. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, like our surplus. So happy to be here, happy to support.
I would like to make one quick comment too.
Oh, go ahead.
Chair Hughes. I love the fact too that we were able to get the African community out too. So thank you for helping to drive that. It warmed my heart to see that we had a great mix and it wasn't just, the African American crew that came out. All of our people were showing up and it was just wonderful.
Any comments from board members? Councilmember Dukes, I see what you said. I appreciated being in the Rotunda with a historical group of Black legislative leaders who are pushing transformative legislation. The comment about the Capitol being built without us in mind was a riveting and empowering statement. Absolutely. He said, I am proud to have been in attendance. No, we were glad to have you there. Others that were able to come and share feedback with that.
Chair, I would like to also recognize Linda. You did an amazing job. I know you took a bow or handed the bow to everyone else. You did an amazing job. And to see Chair Hughes and all the others, one key word stuck out: the respect that everyone interacted with the council. And you could see it. Even sometimes it wasn't said, but you definitely could see that They knew who we were. They knew why we were there, and they are supporting our efforts. And I know, to be able to move the date the way we did and to be there with our Native brothers and sisters on Sovereignty Day was just an amazing opportunity. And the only challenge that we had in front of us was a way to get those young people there because they were on spring break.
Right.
That was something that we were talking about, especially with the rescheduling.
Yes.
Yeah, we did have, I don't know what age they were, but we did have some young students. I can't tell, maybe either high school, either college or high school, junior high,
Oh, I
college. high
did
school
see
age, yeah.
that.
I don't really, I think
Yes.
because they look like they came in, so it was kind of nice to see that too. But yeah, there's so many opportunities to get involved. I'm just kind of thinking about that in terms of just like the last presentation, just about youth and what that means to be a young person. Connecting with folks at this age, I think is at a younger age is probably really exciting. I was actually telling Narita and Linda that I wanted to have my niece there. I have two nieces, one who's 14 and came to the Crown Act signing, and then the other one who's 1. But she's Native and Black, so I was like, that would have been cool to have that start that at a young age, just so they can be familiar with the process and understand whose house it is. So.
Yes. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Job well done.
Yeah.
And the materials were excellent.
Thank you.
People actually read and loved the annual report. So great job, everyone.
Yeah.
Let me just add one quick piece there. I know I gave my feedback yesterday, but I just want to add the fact that the council as a whole, we've been not fighting, but we've been facing some public perception that probably in the past. But I'm so happy and glad for all of us and the contribution that we're making, because I think I can see that needle moving upwards. And that's the whole purpose, because in our strategic plan, I think that's something we talked about too. And yesterday was a good testament that we can do more, and we were moving that needle. And let's continue to work. Let's continue to do the work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. And Chair Hughes go ahead.
I also wanted to note that our counterparts at the council for
Yes.
oh my goodness, for Latino Affairs and the Council Operation and the Asian Ethnic Council.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. The AAPI Council were also present, and they had really great words to say, and I think that means a lot. I think there are moments where, as all groups, like as we're talking to each other as staff or even as board members, there are moments where it's like, are we doing enough? Are we feeling enough? And so I think it's great to see our peers, our counterparts, encouraging us as well. People love the lineup, from performers, from our vendors and performers to legislators themselves. So congrats again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And thank you for mentioning the other councils, because I think that that's important. They came collaboratively, they came early, some of them did, and they asked, how can we help? And I think that that is key. We can do this work, but when we can get the support of other councils as well to jump on board, that's just, one more group of people who are rallying and going after dollars and trying to, help us move our agenda forward. So I was very pleased with that as well. And I just want to mention in closing for myself, and then I'm going to be quiet. I want to thank Rashanae, our intern, for coming out and helping. As you know, she's had some challenges. She was in an accident, and so she's recovering. But she came and she's there with her cane. She left the wheelchair at home and she said, I'm going to do this. I am going to help. And she feels part of the team. So I just wanted to recognize her efforts, because I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, it was good to see her. And I think she really appreciated too. When we interviewed her, she was really excited about just the work that we do. And, kind of like what we were just talking about of having young people there. She has done a lot of work in her community. And I think this opportunity for her to just be able to see lawmakers and see how the process works, and just understand that this is what she's a part of was really, it was really helpful and really invigorating. And it was really good it was also good to meet her in person too. And I know when you're interning, it's especially virtually, it's kind of like difficult to kind of get that connection. But having that be her first event, I think was really special for her.
Awesome. No,
I just want
thank
to add
you.
and say thank you. I really appreciate seeing you
Oh,
guys.
oh, I didn't even know you were
Yeah,
on.
she's on. I was like,
Ah.
you all must not know she's on.
I did not. I did not. See, that means it was honest and real
Actually, no,
statement.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Rashane. It was good to have you. It was good to meet you in person. It was good to have you there. So yeah, thanks again.
I thought you guys seen. Trying to get my. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we
But
are.
yeah, thank you so much. It was good. It was my first like big event to go. 5 people there, but it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. My brothers came. They had a good time. They were really connected. Love networking, connecting. Like my brother's a photographer and giving out business cards. I had a good time and it was really because like we're gonna really physically see each other, but you see how short I really am, and it was good to meet y'all. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh yeah, I did last minute join. I joined like around 15 minutes when the meeting started. I'm like, oh, council meeting started today. I just randomly jumped in. But it was really interesting. Seeing the presentations, I learned a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and Michelle Weber came as well. I want to make sure. I don't know if she's still online, but
She's still on.
okay. So Michelle, so thank you for coming out.
Yes.
It was great. Thank you. It was just great.
Thank those that came, and I know folks that wanted to come but could not because, again, like I said, the date changed, and so that kind of caused some folks to say, now I can't come. So appreciate that. So let's move us along here. I know I keep pushing these two items, but I'm looking at the time and I do want to get to the staff reports. And we don't have any new business, but if you all are okay, meeting structure and speakers for 2023, really quickly, we had talked about possibly having a face-to-face meeting. And at one point we had said April. I think we're talking about now moving it to May. If we can try and have a face-to-face meeting in May, and we had kind of thrown out a couple of different things. But let's talk more about that next month, because I want to be cognizant of time, even though, yes, we started a little bit late, but you all know me, we're all still in on time. And so if we're okay with kind of moving, that to April's discussion. And then really quick, speakers for 2023, we have identified a couple of people. And so those speakers will be contacted, to have them come and present as well. And then if there's others that you all think that we should invite, please let the CMAH staff know, and then we'll try to get them into rotation. This is just March. So, I mean, we have 9 more months to figure out where we want to place people. So I just want to throw that out there. So with that, last 20 minutes, I'm turning it over to CMAH staff for the reports.
Okay, great. Flakami, do you want to go first?
Yep, I can go. So our biggest thing that we've been doing has been the I was going to say the policy agenda has been our Day on the Hill. We originally had it planned for the 24th of February, but with the snowstorm, we had decided to pivot to the 13th, which, had its pros and cons, but I think overall, at the end of the day, it was a really great pivot. I did forget to mention that we had Janata Petrus giving a speech, an original speech that she prepared for us, as well as Javante Patton, who did the Black National Anthem, as well as his own original song. And so moving forward from that, I'm going to be shifting my focus again on our roundtable information, but also with our issue groups. We've been working with Wintana on Civic Eagle, that's now called Plural, to create some internal structures that will be able to help us once we get that constituency, once we get some constituents informed about the policy issues in each issue group. I think Wintana will also be good. Again, to kind of do some one-on-one information with them in terms of policy. And that will be a really great jumping point for them just to kind of get a little bit more informed with CMAH and the work that we do. With the roundtable, I'm using that as a kind of a container for our community partners, and adding more as time goes, but that's kind of where my base is right now, and connecting with them and seeing where they are in terms of their work and connecting any dots if needed with CMAH. So that is my report. Any questions or? Yeah.
Any questions for Flockamie?
So Ash, do you have
right.
anything that you want to contribute?
No, I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Ash, do you have anything? Rashanae's good.
I do not. I would have talked about Day on the Hill, but we've already spoken a lot about it. So
We've
all
done
you,
that.
Executive Director.
Okay. Well, this will be short, but I just want to make sure that you know that even though the staff might not be talking a lot, that doesn't mean that they're not working. They're just not sharing everything that they're working on. So I just want to make sure that that was clear. So again, Day on the Hill, going to different hearings, missing and murdered women's hearing, working with the Minority Business Coalition on Racial Equity, working with Justin Terrell on his Minnesota Justice Research Center. There are 15 police accountability bills that we are supporting as part of that coalition. I'll make sure that you guys get information on that. As you know, the Restore the Vote got signed and participated in the bill signing with that, attending community meetings. Senator Bobby Joe Champion had a meeting along with Representative Agbaje and Representative Lee. And so just trying to make sure that we are in the community, working with Councilmember Doe and Theo on research project. And Chair Hughes is a part of that. There's a Hayes study that has required some of my time regarding my position, and we will also be reviewing other positions as we move forward. Working with the deed office regarding the Office of New Americans. There's a bill revision that we've been working on, so partnering with the other ethnic councils on that. And then Flockamie touched on this a little bit with Wintana, and I also mentioned it in the budget. I'm really excited to bring her on to work on some of the policy pieces, and then also she'll be working somewhat with Flockamie on getting out into the community and bringing legislation to the community, making sure that people understand how to draft a bill, what they need to do to move it forward, and just any issues that's related to legislation. She'll be able to answer those questions. So that's kind of a little short, brief synopsis of some of the work, but clearly it's been mostly focused on Day on the Hill. So that's kind of where we've been. So we've been a little busy, and then Theo has been out, so we've had to pick up the slack in that space.
No, thank you. Jude, I see you have a question, your hand's up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Edie. So for the work with Wintana, and also on what's going on right now with budgets and bonding and surplus, I'm seeing that we have a lot of bills being introduced in the Senate and the House as well. But my estimate is that less than 10% of them have been heard. So I don't know the timeline, especially the ones coming to the community, our community. I don't know the timeline when they'll be cut off, but there is a very long process. Inability to move these bills to be heard and also to be included in omnibus bill is so paramount. And beyond any other work that is critical, this is important because these bills have been introduced. They have specific dollar amount to they are going to do for the community, but still we don't have the expertise in our community to put for some of the bills. Others are going on pretty well, but a lot, maybe 80%, are just there. So if nothing is done as it's supposed to be done on both chambers, and then another processes, we just have those great opportunities and we miss them. So I think the work should also be included on how to get this bill. So it takes engagement, it takes hearing, it takes calling the legislature. There's just so much to be done for it to be successful.
Yeah. And you've hit the nail on the head as to the work that she's going to be doing. So as soon as we can get a quick contract signed, we'll be advertising that she will be available. And if we know what the bills are that people have put forward that are kind of dead or just kind of stalled, then we can take a look at that. She will be keeping tabs on the bills that that will impact our people. So she'll be looking at all of those things as well and partnering with Theo on that. But here's the trick. If we don't know that a bill is coming through, I mean, the revisor's office gets like 4,000 bills a session. So we need the community to let us know if there are things that we need to be paying attention to, just like Ben today said, hey, I have a bill out there that I want you all to focus on. So when Tana will be doing that work and we'll be offering her up to the community where they can actually meet with her. So she'll have open times where they can book times to meet with her, and then we will be picking that up. So we're offering that as a service to the community. But if you know specifically too, if there's some bills that we need to take a look at, we need to know that. Otherwise we're kind of just, we're out there, we're looking, but it's hard. So let us know. And she also will be giving training sessions in the community as to how to do that, how to move a bill forward, how to create a bill when you have an issue, how to draft one. So she'll be doing that as well. And it's going to come fast and furious because clearly the session, we're mid-session right now. So these things need to happen. But to your point, some of these things could be included in an omnibus bill.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research for weeks on that. So I just say, ring me. So we'll talk more on that.
Well, and for sure, I'd be happy to have you engaged in that, Jude. So I will follow up with you, and maybe you and Wintana can have a conversation. I just need to get her preliminary contract signed before she can do any work, and that will happen this week for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are there any announcements? So last piece, for the record, we do need to have a motion and do an official vote. So Ash, I know you asked me, and then I said, we can just do it. And thank you, Carl, for saying, actually. So he did move, Carl did put in the chat that he does move to accept the meeting structure and speakers for 2023 to be moved to the April meeting. So I just need a second.
Second, Dukes.
Knock, knock.
Well, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unmute and say aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And with that, I believe we are towards the end. And if there are no announcements or anything, I will enter. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
It's not an announcement, but I just want to say, since we are definitely coming up on the end of the biennium in the fiscal year, if you know of any events that will be occurring prior to June 30th that might require some funding, or if there's a tabling situation, please connect with us as soon as possible so that we can see if it's something that would be appropriate for the council to attend.
Perfect. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry, Chair, before the motion,
Okay.
I just wanted to chip in that for the feedback for the Day on the Hill, if the staff can send us like survey just to capture some of the critical things, I think that would be very helpful. I know we've discussed it here, but there's just so much that we can learn from yesterday and then help us next year so to plan.
Yep, Ash said she'll create a survey and send it out.
Thank you. And I move the motion to adjourn.
All right, and there does not need to be a second, so we are officially adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Stay well.
Thank you.
Good seeing everybody again.
All right.